Thanks for joining me today. Hope everyone had a great Christmas and a safe New Year. Over the Christmas school holidays, my family travelled to Thailand to see our Thai family. And while we were in Thailand, we also spent a week travelling to China. And we visited quite a few places. We visited Macau, we visited Hong Kong, and we stayed 4 days in Harbin. Now, Harbin is around 1,200 kilometres northeast of Beijing. It is a very cold city. At the time we were there, the temperatures never rose above minus 20 degrees Celsius. Today, I want to show you some photos and I want to talk about the good and the bad of using my Nikon Z6II to take photos in those sorts of temperatures. Now, the temperatures range from about minus 20 all the way up to minus 26. Today is all about using the Z6II in this extreme cold. The issues that I found photographing in extreme cold and what I learned from using my camera in that extreme cold, and what also I realized that some people mislead you into thinking that you can't use a camera like the Nikon Z6II in the extreme cold because within about 10 minutes the battery will fail. That's not my experience. But let me show you some photos now of what it was like to photograph in that extreme cold. Now, all of these photos were photographed handheld apart from the last one. So in Harbin, the main attraction is St. Sophia's Cathedral. Very old church, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of people. And this is what it's like photographing a place like this. And you can see in the photo that it's quite soft. And that is because most of the time it snowed. Just a very light, drizzly, rainy snow. The photos are going to be soft. And this is something that you have to think about also when you're editing your photos. Sure, you can use the dehaze slider to take all that softness out, but I believe that when you're taking photos like this with the drizzly snow and the image is very soft, then leave it like that. I had to do some editing because the image was so flat. I added just a little bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation, corrected the color shift because a lot of photos just had a light beige tinge on it because I was using auto white balance. But you can see here the picture looks quite nice. Now, what's it like being out in this weather? This is my wife, and this is how we were dressed. We had 3 layers of pants on, we had thermals, we had woolen socks on, we had hand warmers underneath our feet, above our feet in the shoes. We had hand warmers in our pockets, we had hand warmers in our gloves, just to keep ourselves warm. Because until you've been into that sort of temperature, you don't realize how cold it is. Now look at this image here. This is a panoramic image. Now I'm not going to share the settings and all that because for this video, the settings aren't important. Unless I was shooting panoramas, all my photos were taken in aperture priority. I believe that when you're out during the day, it's no point setting in manual. I just like using aperture priority because the light changes so much that aperture priority is your best friend in situations like this. And look at this panoramic image here. This is St. Sophia's Church, and you can see the hundreds of people around this church here. And I was using the 24 to 85mm at 24mm just to get a feel of what it looked like around this church because this is center square in Harbin. And you can see there's quite a lot of clouds around. Now, we were there for 3 full days. The first day it was like this. The second day we had a bit of sun during the day. The third day again, rainy snow the whole day. In temperatures like this, it was between minus 22 and minus 24. And that's of St. Sophia's Church. Quite a few of the young women dress up. They pay to dress up like this. There's 2 big buses parked on a side road where the women pay a certain amount of money and they can choose the dresses they like and they get all their makeup done and then they get posed like this to take some nice photos of themselves. And this is just one of the women that were there. They were quite nice to let me take a nice portrait image of her. Now, this is just a single image of St. Sophia's Church. This was taken a bit later in the day. The snow had stopped. So you can see a very big difference between the panoramic image where the snow was falling and the image was quite soft to this one where there wasn't any snow. So the image is a little bit sharper. This is late afternoon on the second day. You can see the sun is coming in from the right hand side, just lighting up. And this is something that you've got to adjust because the photos that I took on the first day were much different to the photos that I took on the second day, and then from the second to the third day, they were different again. And as the light changed, because I was shooting in aperture priority, I just kept adjusting my exposure compensation. And a lot of these weren't taken in matrix metering or evaluative metering if you have a Canon camera. I was using center weighted, and I found that center weighted for most of these shots gave me a better metering reading than matrix because of the difference between the bright areas of the image and the darker area of the image. So this is on the third day here. Experience what it's like walking around this area in these sorts of temperatures. And I just like photos like this to show the contrast of pine trees here, the needles, the branches are just covered in snow. And one of the big issues that I found when I was taking photos with my Nikon Z6II is that the gloves that I had weren't gloves for photography. They were fully covered and I couldn't use the camera with my gloves on. So every time I had to take photos, I had to take my glove off. And after about 5 minutes of using my camera to take photos like this, I couldn't feel my trigger finger anymore. I was just pressing the button and I was relying on the sound of the camera because there was just no sensation in my fingers. After 5 minutes, I had to stop taking photos for a while, put my hand without the glove in my jacket pocket, and I had 4 hand warmers in there. And it took me 10 minutes to get the feel back in my fingers. Once I got the feel back in my fingers, again, I went out and took more photos. Now, although I didn't have a lot of time, the time that I had to take photos, I really looked to try to get some photos that would remind me of my trip. Although this video is about using my Z6II, I also want to stress that if you're in a place that you think you'll never go back to or you'll never experience that sort of feeling of being out in freezing conditions, then take photos that remind you of that. Because a photo like this, there's snow on the branches, you've got these pine cones, and the pine cones were frozen. Photos like this are just, for me, once in a lifetime. Now, towards the end of the third day, we went to a chocolate factory and we took a cable car across the river. I can't remember the name of the river, but this river had 3 meters of solid ice in places. And as we crossed the river, it was just on sunset, and I took this very nice image from the cable car. I just placed my lens up onto the side of the cable car and took this beautiful photo of the sunset, and you could see all the snow on the ground, and it was just an amazing experience. This was on the western horizon. This is on the eastern horizon. This huge bridge here just goes from one area to another, crosses the frozen river. You can see how soft the image is. There was no way I could sharpen this image up because as soon as I sharpened it, I lost all the feel to the image. And my camera never let me down. Now, while I was traveling, I had my camera in my backpack. And when I wanted to take photos, I just took it out of the backpack. The maximum time that I probably held my camera in my hand would have probably been about 3/4 an hour to an hour. Now look at this image here. I was trying to get a photo of this bridge, but it starts snowing again. And this is how hard it was to focus on images at time. Because this one here, I had to use manual focus because the camera just wouldn't focus. There was so much of this rainy snow around that the camera just wasn't able to focus. This is the only time that I found that my Z6II let me down. But quickly adjusting the focus ring, I saw the green light and I was able to take a couple of photos. Now, this was one of the last images I took, and to understand the frustrations of a photographer when we're taking photos like this, we knew this bridge was there and we had to walk around 400 meters from where the cable car dropped us off to this point. But I really wanted to take photos of this bridge, but when we got there, it was just after sunset and the bridge wasn't lit up. So I took a few photos, and then as I started walking back, my wife said, "Oh look, they're just starting to light the bridge up." So I walked back about 100 meters, took some more photos, said, "Yep, okay, I'm pretty happy now." Walked back to her and she started laughing and I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Look at the bridge now." The bridge was like this, all lit up again. By now, I'm starting to huff and puff and my hand is starting to be very cold. I could hardly feel my fingers. Quickly walked back just to take this image, and I'm glad I did because this was the best image out of the 3 times that I took images. This is the last image I took. I'd seen this tree during the day, And in hindsight, I kicked myself that I didn't even take a photo of it with my phone, because I would have liked to show you the photo of the daytime compared to night, because in daytime, it looked very bland. But I could see these lights hanging around, and I could see little fairy lights wrapped around the tree. And I told my wife, I said, you know, we're going to come back for dinner tonight in this area. I really want to come back and take a photo of this tree. To get a stable shot of this tree, I used my Fotopro Origin Travel Plus tripod. Done a review on this tripod, and if you're looking for a tripod to go traveling with, definitely look at this tripod. And what I like about it is very compact. It's not a triangular tripod, so when it collapses, even though it's got a center column, when it closes up, it is very compact. And when I was traveling with it, I just took the bald head off, left the bald head in my backpack, and on the side of my backpack, it didn't annoy me at all. Very sturdy, a rubber handle on there, so if you're looking for a travel tripod, definitely look for a tripod like this. Now in closing, what were the issues that I found that were frustrating, and how do I think that my Z6II held up? Well, my Z6II amazed me. It actually worked better than what I thought, because like I stated, I saw a lot of videos on YouTube about photograph in extreme cold, and a lot of people were saying you've got to take so many precautions, you know, don't leave your camera out too long because the lens will fog up. Not one time did my lens fog up. At night time, because rooms in the hotels were heated, I made sure that my camera stayed in my backpack. I didn't take my camera out at night time to look at the photos and all that, because I knew that if I took the camera out of my backpack, it would react to the warm hotel room, and then in the morning, when I went outside, I would get fogging because of the sudden temperature change. So the camera stayed in my backpack to keep it cool, so that it wouldn't be affected by the warmth of the room. But what was noticeable was my spare battery. I put the spare battery on the side of my backpack, and when I went to use it, I noticed that it wasn't fully charged. It was down to half charge. So I'd lost half of the charge. I put it back into my jacket pocket where all the hand warmers were, kept on shooting because I still had enough battery power to last me a little bit longer. When the battery showed red that it was just about ready to die, I took out my second battery, put it in there, and it showed 3/4 charge. It was just because of the cold, the battery had reacted and it was showing half charge. When I put it back in, it showed 3/4 charge. So my advice to you is, if you're going to travel and you're going to have spare batteries around, keep them in a very warm area. Don't put them in your backpack, especially on the pockets on the outside of the backpack. Put like a hand warmer around it if you're in extreme cold, or do like I did, put it in your jacket pocket where you've got a couple of hand warmers. Also, the autofocus sometimes I found was a bit slow because of the situation, not because of the extreme cold, but because of the rainy snow that was around that the camera found hard focusing. Even the photographers that were around me, I was talking to another foreigner there, he was saying he was having the same issue, so sometimes he was just having to manually focus on because the area was so soft and because the camera was finding so hard to focus on a subject. So all in all, the Z6II, it never missed a beat. And in the extreme cold, walking around in -22, -25 degrees, the camera never froze up on me. I'm very pleased about how my Z6II handled. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't noticed, I'm wearing a Fotopro polo shirt. I'm now a Fotopro ambassador for Australia. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.